So guys, I wanted to do this video because I saw this deck on Reddit. It's by a guy called Legendary. I'm going to link his original video in the description and also in the pinned comments, so you can go and check it out directly if you'd like to and support him. It's Vultures. It's Vultures. I don't know what else to say. It's Vultures. He does a really good job of explaining the deck, but what I've done in this video is I'm going to analyze and talk about some of his games. I really want to get some commentary experience on Warcraft Rumble, so if any of you guys have decks that you are playing or games that you want to show off on the channel and you have videos, please feel free to come onto my Discord and send them to me. I might set up a channel for it. I used to try and do this for Deck Doctor and for like Wild Rift Doctor and stuff like that when I was doing that in the past, but this time shorter games. You know, if you can link me like 2 or 3 games max, I'd really love to get some experience breaking down games and doing commentary, and I want to do that with Legendary's games. So you're going to see his games directly. I'm going to basically show his YouTube channel video on this this video. But if you want to go support him directly, there's also a link in the description below. I'm not going to go too much into the details of the deck. I don't want to take that away from him. I don't want to take kind of breaking down the deck, but this is the deck. He talks a little bit about talents in depth on his video. So again, if you want to go and check out the talent discussion, that's on his video. What I'm going to be doing is just showing you the game, breaking it down, and doing some like commentary over it. But it's really, really cool that we've got someone innovating and doing something different, and I love it. Really love it. Hope you guys love it too. Let's jump straight into the commentary. So these games are versus a guy called Jim. Jim is in my guild in Honor Guards, and he's a very, very good player. Probably one of the highest ranked players in the world, let alone just in my guild. And he's very, very good at Rend. He's just generally a very solid player. So Legendary playing him is a big deal. Jim is also level 10 in a lot of his units. So you know, there's going to be a significant level disadvantage for Legendary at this point. What we're going to do is we're going to analyze some of Legendary's games, and then we're going to also play some of my own. The reason I'm not showing you just my own games is because I'm like I'm still like 2,000 something honor with Grom. I just don't play him that much. So for me to get to a point where I could actually show you relevant games that are equal to this level would take me a very long time if I could never get that good with Grom at all. But what I want to analyze is how useful is Vultures. Are there other units that could be just as good, or is it really just this insanely broken unit that people are just underusing? And Rend is going to be a good test, because Rend has got a lot of units, like Rend itself, that are going to be generally pretty solid versus Vultures. So let's kind of just have a quick look, and we're going to be using our magical pen to do some analysis as well. So let's start the game. That's quite loud, so we're going to make it. Okay, so immediately we have well pegs dropped on the tower. That's just to put a bit of pressure on the tower and do some damage. So he's preparing to defend. He's dropped Vultures. They're a 1 cost. You might as well cycle them. I get it. That's pretty good. So he's going to immediately safe pilot them. Okay, so over there we've just seen Jim spend 3 gold on... So there's 1 gold here, 3 gold on well pegs. There was 2 gold on Quillbore, and there was another 2 gold on what looked like skeletons being dropped over there. Well, that might have been our own skeletons. I'll have to go back and have a look in just a moment. So either way, we've just seen Jim spend 1 gold, but that paid for itself with this mine. We've got 3 gold from the well pegs, 2 gold. So Jim spent 5 gold. We've seen 1 gold from We've seen 1 gold from Legendary. We've just seen him use a safe pilot, so that is 4 gold. But there was a little bit of time wasted, so you'd say that maybe about even, but ever so slightly ahead in terms of gold for Legendary at the moment. So he's going to drop Grom as well in defense here. So he did drop his own skeletons. That was a good defense. So no execute. Good defense with the well pegs. Jim just did a pretty cool tactic, which was basically allow the well pegs to get procced and then immediately drop a Quillbore as they get procced, so the tower basically changes aggro at that point because it considers them new units. He's then going to kind of stop him from going for farming, so he stopped him farming in the central platform, which was good. So he didn't let that miner get any value, and this is really nice as well. So this is what you do versus Rend and Drakes. You have minis that can attack Rend, which all of these minis can attack Rend. You just drop Quillbore the other way to make sure that the Dragon's Breath is only going at Quillbore. So that's what we're going to see here. Slow progress with Murloc Tidehunters, but it works. Okay, so he's called this a bad gargoyle. it's very interesting. The reason I think he probably calls this a bad gargoyle, and it's probably in the context of him having answers as well, is that we've just seen Jim spend 6 gold on Rend. So we've just seen him spend 6 gold, and then obviously with Rend, that's 3 gold on the gargoyle. That means that Jim has basically no gold left. He's just spent essentially 10 gold, or 9 gold. So he's going to have limited gold for response at this point. Whereas cheap units that can deal with gargoyle are all here. So there is an answer already. Sorry, just had to mute Slack because I was getting some Slack notifications even though I'm on lunch. Right. So he says it's bad gargoyle. Now, what I will say is I don't necessarily think it was a terrible gargoyle. I think the problem with this Rend deck is that you are primarily playing around the idea of gargoyle being a nuisance and a split push. I mean, you can't play gargoyle here. You have to play gargoyle over there. It's just a situation that I think Jim was probably in. Like, you play gargoyle because it demands an answer. That's kind of what gargoyle is, especially when you've got a very high level gargoyle. You play it and it's going to demand an answer. So I don't necessarily think it was bad. It was just trying to take some pressure away from this side of the map. Like, we know that Legendary is going to have to respond to this. So I don't necessarily think it was a bad gargoyle in that sense. But it was in the context of what Legendary has in his hand, obviously. It might be that Jim has just obviously never played this. So he's going to drop the... Really interesting. He actually obviously just drops the vultures into gargoyle, which, as we know, they're not going to deal a huge amount of damage because gargoyle is armored, but it is what it is. What I really love, and what's something that I'm noticing, because I'm just learning how to play this deck now, is that we're using Grom in defensive situations a lot of the time to pull the aggro away from the tower, which is quite nice. So that's really, really cool. We have a very big offense coming this way, and actually there isn't that much in hand to deal with it. So we're going to be interested to see how this goes. Gargoyle got 1 hit in. Okay, so he said there's a counter push now. There's a good reason that he's done this counter push, right? So the good reason that we've done this counter push is that there was a lot of gold spent on this tower. And we know that Jim's probably at this point got very little gold in hand. Gargoyle is only... So Gargoyle's pretty bad if you can't support it, right? So you have to be able to support Gargoyle. For instance, this safe pilot, had he safe piloted over here, we might have actually had a Gargoyle that did significant amount of damage. So had he just said, okay, I don't need this tower, right? This tower's not that important. Had Jim just gone safe pilot over this side and actually killed off the vultures and killed off, or at least put some pressure on the Murloc Tidehunters, that you take down their bubble and then you blast them, then they die. We might have actually seen a gargoyle that got a significant amount of damage done to the tower, but instead Jim was kind of going Jim was going way too aggressive on this tower. So it was a good defense from Legendary, but also I think a small mistake from Jim there. But because gargoyle doesn't attack your units, you basically get free trades. If you can take it down, you basically get a free trade. And so he's dropped... I'm going to pause here again. Oh, bollocks. Let me just go back like 1 second. Go back again. Go back again. Yeah, so he's now going to drop all of these with a Quillbore. And obviously this is free for him because it was versus a gargoyle, which doesn't hit you back, which is great. So we're going to skip forward again. And yes, he was right. Jim is low on gold at this point because Jim has spent a lot of gold. And we're getting a lot of value at a very low... very low-cost units. And Jim now is kind of going in on protecting side tower. This is where the value of the... And this is what's interesting to me. The value of the skeletons come through. Now, actually, the majority of the time that we've seen skeletons used, Exhume would be better in this scenario, but I do understand that Questing Party does give you some extra survivability. So, but Exhume just seems like it would be better in this scenario. So we have Vultures plus Grom going in on the tower. That's the first time that I've really seen Vultures being super useful. I am noticing in this Rend deck as well, like for instance, Exhume would just be better there, right? I am noticing right now in this Rend deck that Vultures are going to come out obviously way more impactful versus things like Gargoyle. You know, my question is whether we think Vultures are equivalent to Defias Bandits, for instance, or do we think that Vultures... Oh, little thing, by the way, something that some of you guys might not know. I'm going to try and go back and we'll show it in a minute. Right, here, right. Placement of the Chain Lightning. Do not put it on the tower. If you place it on the tower, it actually won't kill the eggs. It will just bounce the tower and then just not kill all the eggs. So you've got to place the Chain Lightning away from the tower, and it just has to include the eggs, which is why if you place your eggs as close to the tower as possible, you make that harder. All right, we'll carry on, because that was just a cool little bit of information that some of you may not know. So far, Vultures seeming pretty good. They're a very low-cost unit that seems to be getting a decent amount of value. They are sometimes drawing... and yeah, they're a good defense for Rend, for instance. They're just going to chip away. They're sometimes drawing... And that's actually a really, really good point. They're sometimes drawing more gold than they need to in terms of dealing with them. You'll wait here. Watch, wait. You'll just see it in the corner of your eye. Wait for a second. There. So, right. He's just used Dragon's Breath. Dragon's Breath to hit the tower, hit the base, and also to deal with Vultures. Now, that is essentially a 3 gold... Sorry. Yeah, a 3 gold advantage to Legendary in terms of gold that's actually being spent. But obviously, Legendary has now lost his side tower and has no gold to deal with it, which could become a problem down the line. So it's just, even though it was a negative trade, and it was a negative gold trade, which works in favor of Legendary, he does immediately drop the skeletons as well to just stop that from going. So that's actually a really nice reaction. He needs to drop those there. Losing that side tower might actually end up being a bit problematic for him. So I like what he's done in that scenario. We're going to see a Quillboar drop to just try and pressure out that side tower for the time being. Prowler might even be able to solo this, but he's going to... This is one of the great things about Grom. Grom taunts, so he's going to taunt the Prowler off the tower. Means that he won't lose the tower. Should be fine with the tower still being up. He actually... I think he uses... That's one tiny... So even one tiny mistake. He's actually played pretty good up until this point. One tiny mistake. He actually ended up using Chain Lightning when he didn't need to because the tower did the work for him. He's going to bait him to defend the side tower. And then I think going to assume that he wants to just go straight in for the win with these Murloc Tidehunters. Took the bait. Prowler out of cycle. Pressuring with Grom because there's no Prowler to deal with it. Okay. Really like it. We're seeing that the Vultures used in conjunction. Vultures probably just get one shot in this scenario, though. I don't think that you could really use Vultures easily without having Quillboar to tank for you. I think using Vultures without having Quillboar to tank just means that they end up getting one shot. But there we go. Ends up winning. Really, really excellently played. We're going to go into another one now. And we'll do another analysis. Key takeaways from that. Grom used primarily defensively because of the taunt, but also used in conjunction with some other type of unit, usually Murloc Tidehunters or maybe even Vultures. Then you have to use a Quillboar. The Grom Bloodlust then becomes very useful for putting pressure on the enemy tower. Vultures used in a lot of really good defensive situations, and as a one cost can be quite powerful in that sense. I guess the question is that if Vultures become meta, like, are people just going to start running much more anti-air? Are they going to start running like Arcane Blast? Are they going to start running more Chain Lightning, which has only seen a little bit of fringe play right now? Interesting, but you know, in that case versus Rend, I think Vultures did what only like a Griffin Rider could do, and Griffin Rider costs one more. So I think Vultures in that sense was good. But the main takeaways: Grom used primarily for defense and then using for counter-attacking pushes. You need to use it in conjunction with Quillboar. I don't know why I'm writing arrows because I'm not going to write anything else. Vultures great on defense. And you just need to bait your opponent into doing something with this. So you really want to sort of use a low-cost push to bait something bigger from your opponent, and then you punish them for it. So that's good. It's like a bait deck. It's like a bait deck. All right. Okay, so this is interesting. I love that little commentary. So if you're ever worried about what to do, it's a one cost. You just split your Vultures. The reason this is actually quite interesting is that there are ways that you can support your Vultures, and if you split them, you can potentially grow 2 packs of Vultures, depending on what you support them with. He's actually got a Griffin Rider in his deck now. So that's interesting. I guess he replaced... What did he replace in his deck for Griffin Rider? I'm trying to think what he would have replaced in his deck. I don't know what he replaced. Play passive and see what the opponent does. So he drops a Griffin Rider himself. So a good answer into Griffin Rider is usually going to be Murloc Tidehunters. It's actually an even trade with, and it actually goes in your favor versus just a negative gold trade with Safe Pilot. Obviously, Safe Pilot does survive, but obviously Safe Pilot then can be countered quite easily. He's pressuring the opposite lanes. This is committed Hogger to the right. So we've just seen Hogger for 4 gold over here. We've just seen Safe Pilot for 3 gold over here. Probably means the opponent has about 3 gold remaining to deal with whatever we have to push. We have 5 gold here, and we've just dropped Grom. So we probably have a gold advantage, and we also have Safe Pilot for a reaction. Also, so Little combo that I'm noticing quite a lot was this: we're seeing a lot of times Grom plus Vultures. So we're just seeing Grom plus Vultures over and over again as some kind of offensive play. So just worth noting that that's kind of how you want to use Vultures in this sense. So we're going to drop. See this just in case. By the time that your units get to the arrow on this level, you want to be using Quillbore in the opposite side. He's then going to use that safe pilot aggressively. The biggest threat is going to be obviously that Griffin Rider. We've just seen Hogger over this side. It's the first iteration of Hogger, so it's not actually that good. But enough to get some pressure. Good chip damage on the tower. Hogger's going to get dealt with one hit. He's actually going to use Prowler as well. And we can then use, again, another good example of using Vultures here. Low health target. We're going to get 3 Vultures. They're going to immediately switch over to the Prowler. And that means you've used a 1-cost unit to kill off a 3-cost unit. Now, he doesn't want the charge damage to go through. But now we have loads and loads of Vultures. Again, just as they get past, you don't actually need to be as strict there because we still had a Quillbore going, and now we have 4 Vultures attacking the tower, going absolutely mental, which is awesome. They do a lot of damage to that tower for this time being, and you'll also notice there is really good control of these gold mines. The enemy is not really mining those very often. I'm trying to remember what he would have taken out from Griffin Rider. Why can I not remember what he's taken out for Griffin Rider in this sense? I like the addition of Griffin Rider, though. Just offers another form of pressure. It's actually, I think it must have reduced the cost of the deck as well. There's Grom, going to taunt things away. Great safe pilot here. He's using, interesting enough, he's using Gnomish Cloaking Device, which does get a bit of chip damage on the tower. Coming in hot would have done a little bit of burn damage and prevented it from healing as quickly. But it's already pretty good. We've got basically good gold control. Doing a really good job in general here. And we're going to immediately... So this is... Yeah, there we go. Another example. You see Hogger down over that lane. You're going to say, okay, well, he's going to support the Hogger. So we're going to pressure the other lane. We don't want to play into Hogger if we can help it. We're going to see the Vultures get dropped. Quillbore to tank the base. Need to kill off that... that Kobold. Kobold should get almost all of it. He's going to use double chain lightning to clean up the Griffin Rider. Negative gold trade, but pushes a bit of damage. That's actually really nice. They managed to respawn a Vulture. It's not that much, but it is something that's annoying. We'll get basically one shot, but that's a mistake here, right? Not that it's going to make that much of a difference, but why did you spawn your Hogger so quickly? I guess to try and stop the... I don't think he's even going to stop the miner, though. So just feels like a bit of a weird... feels like a bit of a weird reason to spawn your Hogger when now the Vulture has survived. Not that the Vulture makes that much difference, but it's just something little. So it looks like obviously the combo of Grom plus Vultures is like really powerful in defense here. And obviously Vultures get a free feed. No good plays, so he's going to cycle lightning on tower. That makes a lot of sense. Got a lot of gold, got to use it somewhere. Don't want to double lightning if you can help it versus a Griffin Rider. So he's going to go for Grom plus Vultures once again on the defensive. And we finally see an Execute coming out. I don't think we'd seen an Execute as of yet. So yeah, that's really interesting. He's just said overcommitted on the Execute. Now he's going to punish him. That was 3 gold for nothing. You shouldn't do that, and especially if your opponent has so many minis on the board. Just spent 3 gold hitting the base for no reason. You really should only be doing that if you're confident this is going to go down to a... Basically, if you're confident this is going to go down to essentially a war of attrition, which at this point, I wouldn't be that confident about it. We're into overtime, so of course, if you're like, what, 40 seconds away from the end of the game and you don't think the enemy's going to get close towards your base, then yeah, for sure, try and go for one of those plays. But like right now, the opponent is just pressuring everywhere on the map, and you've just essentially put yourself 3 gold down at a very crucial time. You can see with this deck allows you to spam pretty consistently. He's now having to defend the side tower and also defend his main base. I think he'd love to have... I think coming in hot would benefit this deck a bit more, just because the instant reaction seems a bit more important than having the safe pilot follow-up damage. But as you can see, that Execute's never going to get dealt with. We're just about chipping away, and he has to be constantly defensive at this point. So that Execute was a complete waste of gold. Could have used that for a safe pilot to stop the push, or plenty of other things that probably could have saved him in this scenario. But it's a very good punish by Legendary in this sense, and he's going for a double chain lightning on the tower as well. So good play, good game all round. Honestly, really, really well played. final one I'm going to break down is versus Chainyo, who's another guy in my guild, really good player, so I know that he's and one of the things that I like about this deck is that it's actually quite easy to just randomly cycle things to try and force your opponent to do something at the start of the game. It can always be a little bit odd to just wait for your opponent to do something, but cycling random minis like this and splitting them is a good way to just kind of say, well, what are you going to do then, bud? Now, he actually, very interestingly, that's to me that was interesting from Chainyo. Like, obviously we have an advantage. We got a free cycle, so Dark Iron Miner got a free cycle because he got both of these. So essentially hasn't lost any gold and has cycled a card for free in terms of playing Dark Iron Miner here. Also denied gold from the opponent. But he did just safe pilot one Murloc, which to me felt like a bit of an overkill. Don't think he needed to do that. So he's now going to send Grom with the one Vulture and the one Murloc that went down this side. We're going to use Skeletons just to kind of bring Prowler away, and actually means that it's easy for Grom. He's going to go straight into using a Deep Breath, which doesn't actually do much to Grom, and actually means that Grom does get to the tower. With the, I think we've switched to coming in hot now as well on the, we've switched to coming in hot on safe pilots. That did end up taking down Jaina pretty quickly. Again, we're going to see another, interestingly, he's kind of just letting him farm gold. So this is interesting to me. Like, most people see a Dark Iron Miner and they're like, got to put Quillbore there to stop him from farming gold. But you got to remember that realistically, all Dark Iron Miner is doing, if Dark Iron Miner collects 2 gold, all it's doing is paying for itself. So you're getting a free cycle. Now, of course, you can make the argument that it's plus 2 gold to Chainyo, minus 2 gold to Legendary. But if Legendary is never going to contest it, then it doesn't really matter. So really, what all you're allowing Jaina to do is get a free cycle. And then obviously, if Dark Iron Miner goes over here, it's 1 gold plus for Chainyo. We're going to see a safe pilot dropped here. There is a Jaina used defensively. That is another defensive Deep Breath, which actually, as he mentions, like, so just to be clear, when you've got a Jaina that's, oh god, what have we done here? Where did we get to? Deep Breath. In a minute. Here we go. Wait. Okay, so yeah. When you have an opponent that uses Deep Breath or even Blizzard or even Execute with Jaina, and they use it on defense, really good, because it's just essentially not chipping away at the base damage. Because what Jaina does primarily to win is that she looks for value trades and chips away at the base damage. Either with Execute, which is a little bit more on the nose, or with things like Blizzard, etc. So it's a bad Execute because it was used only with Quillbore and wasn't actually in conjunction with anything else. So he's going to then immediately use Grom, which is very tanky, can't be taken down with a safe pilot by itself. And then there's Jaina, who basically is going to go down to Tidehunters. Really quite well placed. He's either lucky or well placed, but he ended up getting the Tidehunters to take the hit rather than the actual tower. And it's another defensive Deep Breath coming out from Jaina. As he mentioned, if you're going into a Jaina deck and they're using Deep Breath defensively, you're winning. He's going to use Grom to taunt the Dark Iron Miner away from the gold. Not rushing to use the Kobold. I like that. End of the day, if Kobold only mines 1 gold, all it's doing is cycling itself. You're not actually getting any major economic value from it. Places Skeletons to deal with the Prowler, which again I think is really well thought out, because he knows that Prowler is going to be the biggest problem for Grom, and it's just chipping away base damage versus Jaina. We have a lot of gold to work with. He uses Execute by itself, and so there's an immediate response here coming in from the Tidehunters and from Grom. So that should take this tower down quite easily, especially with Mirror Image. You're going to get a little bit of extra damage. Going to go for quite a nicely placed, what's it called? Safe pilot. And again, there's Skeletons to try and deny Prowler. This time it had to play Quillbore, so he didn't actually get to use the Prowler. Again, another defensive Deep Breath, which doesn't quite kill off the Grom. So again, he's kind of winning the game versus Jaina in the sense that he's continually pressuring. He's forcing Jaina to have to use like a bit of a... So there we go. We get Execute played on a couple of really bad minis, and then we're going to get a split, and Grom's going to go down and pressure each side lane again. And yeah, so if you're forcing Jaina to use spells defensively, then yeah, you're in a situation where she's not using them offensively. You're protecting your base damage, and especially because realistically there are other options that Jaina could be using. Like it's like vultures, right? Again, deep breath being used defensively in this situation is not a big deal. Like, that's not going on the base. There's no way that Jaina can angle the deep breath to go here and also hit the base. It would have to be used a lot earlier to do so. So just really well timed right now from Legendary, and I can see where he's coming from. And we're into overtime, and like they're going for the side tower, but it's not exactly doing a huge amount. Like, side tower at this point is not going to be the be all and end all. We'll have to see if any sort of damage goes down. There's the first deep breath that we actually get on the tower, but he's having to catch up so much damage at this point. It's going to be all about defensive situations, so defensive stuff coming out from yeah, so all defense, like skeletons proving to be really good defense. We're going to use safe pilot to take out the safe pilot. It's just going to be vultures. There's the execute once more, and this time round, like, just going in to pull the aggro with the skeletons, and then we've got Murloc Tidehunters chipping away as well. Double chain lightning just to make sure that the job gets done. So really, really well played. I'm not going to do any more of Legendary's games because there's a couple more on his channel that I don't want to ruin if you want to go and watch them. But they're versus Gulak, who's got a high level level 10 Chalga, and then there's versus Jaina from Towerlad. Towerlad being one of the best players in the world, who seems to be playing more actively again. So I would go and watch them on Legendary's channel. But really, really fantastic. Really, really, really good games, and it just shows that maybe vultures have got a big place, especially in Grom. I can't see vultures being good outside of maybe Grom or Hogger. Like, with Grom, you obviously get the free Bloodlust, so that's great. Hogger, it's just another good cycle unit that has some good defensive capabilities, but I don't know if I'd be teching vultures into too many decks. Works very much in this deck for the context of where it's being used, though, and really fantastic performances from Legendary, and I think deserves the credit for coming up with this. It's very, very strong stuff. Really, really cool. Had fun breaking down these decks, breaking down these games too, and hope to do a bit more of it. If anybody else has games that they want me to break down of decks that they've run at a relatively decent level, please let me know, because I really enjoy doing it. So yeah, cool. See you soon.